It's been so many months in the making, and it's so exciting to be here. So we are launching today our new 5-year strategy at RSTMH. For those of you that I don't know yet, I'm Tamar Ghosh. I'm the Chief Exec of RSTMH and delighted to be in this role as we start the next exciting 5 years. At this point, I would like to just remind us who RSTMH are in 2023.
The Royal Society of Tropical Medicine and Hygiene works to improve global health and tropical medicine through creating networks and collaborations, growing skills and delivering change. Established in 1907, we provide grants, medals and awards, publish scientific journals, hold events and share the latest developments in global health and tropical medicine. We support our international members and fellows throughout their careers by creating networks and collaborations and growing their knowledge and skills. We are uniquely placed to build partnerships across countries, disciplines and sectors, and to use the learnings from all of our work to deliver change in policy, funding, research and awareness. Our ambition is to save lives and improve health around the world through increased access and greater equity.
I hope you enjoyed that video. It's hot off the press and just trying to really summarize who we are and what we do decades on from when we started. So I'm lucky to be here to welcome you on behalf of the team and the Board of Trustees at RSTMH. I wanted just to spend just a minute to introduce you to the team. We have an amazing team at RSTMH and everything we do is a result of a team effort. So I'm going to ask the team to put their cameras on and I'll just quickly introduce you to everyone. This means that hopefully you can find whoever you may need after today. So first of all, Nisreen is here to help you with anything to do with membership. Nisreen, give us a wave. Lovely. Then if you want to find out about the journals, you would need to speak to Tom, our managing editor. Hopefully you can see Tom. Wonderful. If it's all about grants for you, then you need to speak to Adim. Particularly busy today as our grants deadline is tomorrow, you probably know. Then we have Alice here, who you may know, our comms manager, everything to do with our communications, our website, social media and the newsletter. And then we have Georgia. Georgia is our team and office manager, and she's the person to talk to about the country ambassador role or the global assessor role. And finally, Eva. Eva is our administrative assistant. She gets involved in almost everything and particularly student ambassador roles. If you're interested in that, then please do drop her a line. And we'll put the email addresses as far as we can in the chat. On our website, all of our email addresses are there for you. So if you want to find someone after today, you can. And now is the time for you to introduce yourself to everyone. So please use the chat for that. We hope there'll be very many of you joining. So use that, say hi. And one of the great things about RSTMH is we're often the platform for you to find old friends and start communication. So let's hope that that happens for many of you today as well. All right, well, I'm going to share my screen now and I'm going to talk you through some of the areas that we'll be looking at for our new strategy. I'm going to first do a very quick recap on what we've been doing for the last 5 years to bring you up to date. Now, I'm sure that you've been well aware through the newsletter and through our other activities, but just in case, here we are. So I'm going to give you a quick run through. So first of all, just to say, our new strategy is for 5 years, similar to the one before. It redefines the scope of our work and within that, our priorities. It includes our overall approach and also our main aims. Now, obviously, beneath those areas, we have got budgets, we've got very detailed activities. So hopefully today you'll get a chance to see a few of those, a few of our plans. All of this information that I've just mentioned is in the new strategy document, and that was launched a few weeks ago. So we'll put a link to that in the chat so you can find it on our website. Please have a read through, and we're always really open to hear your thoughts and feedback on it. Now, just to say, the strategy doesn't cover the vision, the mission, the name or logo, or the values. We had some time to reflect on those and we feel that they remain unchanged. So we've kept them as they were. Now, this image, you might have seen this from our website. This image shows where our members, our ambassadors, and our assessors are based around the world. There's a flag in each of the countries with a number, which I know is probably too small for you to see today. But the important thing to note is, if we had showed you this map at the start of our last strategy, it would have been in half as many places. So this is a really good reflection of the reach and therefore the influence that we had in our last 5 years. And this is the starting point for our future. So just a few highlights of the last 5 years. Our membership numbers have increased by 60%. And also our members within low middle income countries within that have grown 5-fold, which is really important to us. For the voluntary roles of country ambassador and student ambassador, which we created, and they're based across the world, have worked brilliantly to raise awareness of our work, to spread the word, and also to influence our work through their feedback. I just heard the screen share is not working. Let me go back and try that again. I'm so sorry. I'm hoping that's working for you. Can someone I can see give me a thumbs up?
Yes, it is.
Wonderful. Thanks, Wendy. So I was talking about this map, which you can now see, which is probably much easier for you. So as I mentioned, you can't see the numbers within it, but hopefully it gives you a good flavour of where we are. And I was talking about country ambassadors and student ambassadors who are part of this lovely global map. We have 27 country ambassadors now across the world representing the country they are based in. And we've had over 60 student ambassadors over the last 5 years. Now, as well as those voluntary roles, almost half of our board are now based either within Africa or within Asia. And that's amazing. They come from very different areas of work within global health, different disciplines, and that gives us such a rich knowledge and expertise from which to do our work. Now, in the last 5 years, we've done more meetings and events across the world and also online, helped by lockdown, I have to say. So we've been trying to be much more accessible to our members and our networks across the world. Now, this map doesn't yet show partnerships, but similarly, they have grown globally, and we have many, many partners, and I'll mention a bit about those a little bit later on. Now, just the last point on the map itself, we've tried really hard to get a good gender balance in our work over the last 5 years. We know how important that is, and I'm really pleased to say that 4 of our 7 medals that we give out for successes have been given to women for the first time in the last 5 years. And also, second to that, our grant applications and our grant awards are almost 50% male-female. We've been so pleased that we've been able to manage that split all the way through to award level for our grant applications and through to funding. Now, all of these activities that we've done have enabled us to have more influence. From what we hear, from what we're told, it enables us to really increase our impact across the world. And I want to just spend a little bit of time talking about some of the impacts that we've had. We work really hard to increase the value of being part of RSTMH so that people can feed into that impact. So for our members, for example, we've started the members area, and that has exclusive content for them, such as guidance, news, activities, blogs. We also launched the members directory, and this was really important during lockdown to provide members with the chance to find other members working in the same areas of them, all the same locations, all the same disciplines, to try and start those online networks and collaborations. In the last 5 years, we also provided travel scholarships, so ways for our members, especially those based in low middle income countries who've not experienced the joy of an international meeting, to have the chance to do so. But aside from that, we also want to demonstrate the support and the impact that we've had for the wider global health community. And we've tried really hard to do that in the last 5 years, as well as hopefully provide impact for the communities that we exist to try and support. So for the wider community, we launched the website Grow, and that brings opportunities of all kinds in global health together into one website, and we can put the link to that in the chat for you. We also restarted the President's Fund. Now, this is a chance to provide free membership for a few people every year who would not be able to join and see a real benefit of being part of our network. A huge success, I have to mention, of the last 5 years is due to the support of NIHR, who have enabled us to grow the Early Career Grants Programme. So over the last 5 years, and we're so proud of this, we've supported over 570 early career researchers in more than 40 countries. This is tenfold the number of awards we were able to give out before our last strategy, and we hope that this will generate the new leaders, the innovators, the professionals in our sector, and give them a chance to start their exciting research journeys in global health. Now, some of the wider impact that we've had in policy and awareness is also showed here over the last 5 years, the snakebite work, our work with mycetoma, and obviously with WHO as well. And I know I've mentioned NIHR already, but just in a broader sense, we couldn't have done any of the last 5 years without our partners and without our volunteers. We have almost 1,000 volunteers on the board, our committees, our ambassadors, and helping to deliver our journals, and over 100 global assessors who are the quality control for our grants and for our event submissions. And this slide here just shows some of the many, many partners we have. We're so lucky around the world who help us, they support us, and they enable us to do more with as a small team. So I'm now going to stop sharing my screen. I want to then get into the new strategy, and to start us off, we've got our current president telling you about our main aims of the strategy.
Hello everyone, I'm Simon Bush and I'm president of the Royal Society of Tropical Medicine and Hygiene, and I'm really pleased to be leading the society at this exciting time as we start to implement our new strategy from 2023 to 2028. I'm going to outline in this very brief session the scope and the overall aims of the strategy. So to the scope. The Society has more firmly defined its scope as any health issue that affects communities in low resource settings that is important to our members. This includes infectious and non-communicable diseases and other factors that prevent health equity, such as conflict and climate change. So to the overall aims of the strategy, of which there are 3. One is to put members at the heart of everything we do and really recommit to that. Also is to improve the skills and experience and networks of our members and fellows, as it is you, who are the experts who will help deliver this vision. This includes providing opportunities to share their skills and learnings, increasing our support to them, and creating more in-person and online opportunities throughout the life of the plan. The second goal is around delivering more for both the community we are part of in global health and tropical medicine, and also the people and communities in low resource settings affected by the health issues we work on. This is about strengthening our global networks and partnerships and translating all of our collective knowledge and learning into action around policy, funding, research, or awareness. The final goal is about ensuring that we have the right capacity and resources to continue as a society into the future. That's about having expertise supporting the team, having efficient and effective systems, and having enough income. In summary, that is our strategy from 2023 to 2028.
Lovely. Thanks to Simon for doing that. We are now going to just spend a few minutes with me telling you a bit about some of the detail behind what Simon just mentioned. I'm hoping you can see my screen. So the first thing to note is that the surveys and the questionnaires that you all fed into, I'm sure, from last year told us some good news, that pretty much we're doing all right, that we're on track. And this was great news because we started lots of new activities 5 years ago. So we're going to continue to think about growing our networks of members, our networks of partners, because the more partners, the more networks, the more members we have across geographies, across disciplines, across sectors, means the more influence we have from them and the more chance we have of making an impact on these big challenges that we're trying to work on. So whether their collective influence is telling us to look for a particular policy change, look for plugging a funding gap, think about a new research area, or simply raise awareness of a particular area of work, we need all of that expertise to help us. One of the first things that we've done in this area, particularly on that global network space, is that we've signed a number of MOUs with institutions. These first ones have been in India, and they're about how we can formalize and better work together. So I'll just say, if your institution, if you're interested to explore that, do please get in touch with us. We're always really interested to look at more formalized partnerships with all sorts of organizations. So we will continue in the next 5 years to hold meetings and events online and around the world, recognizing that they're both important and they have different aims and goals. And we're going to try this year to have our first regional meeting. This is a new type of meeting, hopefully in Nigeria, hopefully in October. This brings together a few different things. These regional meetings will hopefully happen every 1 to 2 years. There'll be a scientific meeting as part of the few days. There'll also be a chance for early career researchers to share their knowledge and their research and grow their skills and networks, part of the Research in Progress series that we've been running for some time in the UK and in Tanzania. We'll also have the opportunity in that regional meeting, in that space, to meet with as many grant awardees as we can and as many members and partners as we can. And that's about strengthening links and also hearing their thoughts about what we should be doing differently in that particular region. In terms of new areas now, and thinking about some of the new activity, there are 2 main areas. And as Simon mentioned, the first one is all about supporting the careers of our members, their skills, their knowledge, and their networks, and trying to enhance those. So the first thing we're going to try and do is bring in what's called the expert webinars. Now, these are a chance for members and fellows to hear from other members, potentially other experts who have really interesting developments on learnings to share within global health. And it gives members a chance to really have small meetings to ask questions and learn more about those areas. We'll also look for even more opportunities to provide guidance and mentoring, whether that's at our events, whether that's through in person or online, but we're still looking to try and develop a platform through which we can have a really comprehensive mentorship program running. Guidance falls into this area too, and we've started to do a bit more guidance, particularly on our grants program side for our members, but we'll try and do even more for our members and fellows and our networks to increase the amount of guidance and impact we can help them with, particularly on the areas of our work. So, for example, within our journals and being published within our grants program and making assessments. Moving on, the second area to mention, which again Simon did touch on, is about improving our impact and our reach. We want to use our new and exciting networks to try and convene really interesting meetings, discussions and findings which relate to the big topics in our sector. And we're going to try this again this year. Later on, we have our annual meeting in September. It's in London. It's a 2-track, 2-day meeting. And this format, we hope, gives us more time to discuss some of the big issues in the sector. Now, this might hopefully include the climate crisis, hopefully how conflict is affecting health. And we see that at the moment, sadly, in many regions. Also thinking about the global funding climate, the geopolitical environment, and the impact of AI on health. And these are just some of the areas that we want to be able to spend a bit more time on discussing, and with the hope that they will then give us the outcomes that will inform some of these changes that we want to do. We'll continue to use our journals and our other scientific and non-scientific channels to raise awareness of the big issues and to commission research where we feel it's needed. And potentially bringing topics to early career researchers that they could look at through our grants program, or at least giving them a steer for some areas that we think might be important. In terms of our support for early career researchers, we're currently scoping a few different ideas around a next step grant. So perhaps a competitive process for our current awardees, and I mentioned there are many hundreds of them, who want to take the next step, the next level up, and might be able to use that to further their research that they've started with us. We're also doing some scoping work which came out of the back of a piece of research on capacity building grants. Is this something that we could look at for institutions and for individuals, again, to help them on their journey? And the piece of research we did had almost 700 respondents. So we've got some really great ideas from them directly, institutions based across the world, about what a good capacity building grant might look like. We'll continue to grow and to formalise our global partnerships with institutions, governments, NGOs, industry and other societies, because that's the way, as I've mentioned, we strengthen the impact that we can deliver. And finally, we need to work on systems that ensure that more of what we learn, the outcomes from our activities and our partnerships, can be translated into action, whether that's, as I mentioned, policy, funding, research, or awareness. We need all of that data, all of that knowledge to try and inform our work. And in 5 years' time, the hope is that I'll be able to show you this map and we'll have even more tags, particularly in the countries where we know our work is most important. So I'm going to stop sharing at that point. We asked a number of our friends and our partners to give us some advice, their thoughts of what they wanted us to achieve over the next 5 years. And we've got a chance to just share 2 segments of a few messages with you today. The first one that we're going to play just now are messages from our country ambassadors based in a variety of countries.
Hello everyone, and Ramadan Kareem. My name is Rani Dalila. I am the Royal Society of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine Ambassador to Sudan, and I'm glad to be part of this process of launching the 5 years strategy. I'm quite sure that the RSTMH will fulfill its ambition, or our ambition, to save lives, because everyone matters and every soul counts. Thank you.
In the next 5 years, I look at the Royal Society focusing on capacity building of local scientists that will be responding to emerging and re-emerging infectious diseases, and also to strengthen mechanisms for One Health at the country level. And this will actually focus on issues of exchange programs and providing opportunities for grants for young scholars in Africa who will actually be the next global leaders in One Health and global health.
Hello, Lucas from Cameroon, Country Ambassador. Thank you very much for the wonderful work you guys are doing. I pray you continue encouraging early career researchers from Cameroon in the field of infectious disease control and management. Thank you very much for everything.
Hello, everyone. I am Dr. Lucas Guimarães Abreu from Brazil. I hope for the next 5 years, the Royal Society of Tropical Medicine and Hygiene is successful in expanding the number of members across all disciplines and countries, specifically low and middle income settings.
We did have so many messages and we weren't able to show them all. We are going to be uploading those now and for the next few weeks into our members area. So if you're a member or fellow, you can see all of those, and they come from a wide range of partners and individuals. Now, the next stage of the launch, I'm so lucky that we're joined by Professor Nick Day, who is Editor-in-Chief of our journal, Transactions in Tropical Medicine. And he's going to lead a panel discussion which is focused on how we best confront the challenges that we know exist in our sector and embrace the opportunities so that we can start to develop and deliver our new 5-year strategy. Now, there's 30 minutes for this panel discussion, and there will be chance afterwards for questions. Please do put your questions for Nick and for the panel in the Q&A. And before I start, I just wanted, for those of you that haven't met Nick, Nick is Professor of Tropical Medicine at the University of Oxford, and he's also Director of Mahidol Oxford Tropical Medical Research Unit. He is going to introduce our wonderful panel of speakers today. And with thanks, I pass to you, Nick.
Thank you, Tamar, and welcome everybody. First of all, I'd like to congratulate Tamar and everybody at RSTMH on the launch of this exciting new strategy, and also to everybody who's a member or fellow of the Society for all the successes that you've had and the Society's had in the last 5 years. As Tamar showed, there's been a huge change, and that's all down to you. So for this discussion, we have a very exciting panel. Let me briefly introduce them. We've got Dr. Adam Roberts, who's a reader and AMR lead at the Liverpool School of Tropical Medicine. We've got Dr. John Amuasi, who lectures at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology in Ghana, where he heads the Global Health Department and is director of the African Research Network for Neglected Tropical Diseases. We've got Professor Sally Theobald, who's the chair in Social Sciences and International Public Health at the Liverpool School of Tropical Medicine in the UK. And also Dr. Wendy Harrison, who's the CEO of Unlimit Health, formerly the SCI Foundation, an international organization partnering with ministries of health in endemic countries to end parasitic disease, a very worthy aim. So since the launch of the Society's new since the launch of the last 5-year strategy back in 2017, the world has changed enormously, as you all know. We've had the COVID-19 pandemic, of course, which has put infectious diseases and global health uncomfortably at the very forefront of both politics and of the public consciousness throughout the world. The pandemic has also changed the way in which we all communicate. I don't know how many webinars you've been to in the last 3 years, but I can imagine it's a lot more than the last 20, the preceding 20. We're now very dependent on and familiar with Zoom and Teams. And this is both a threat, but also an opportunity. So the pandemic has occurred on top of continued epidemics of viral hemorrhagic fevers and the slow burn pandemic of increasing antimicrobial drug resistance, which we're hearing more and more about. The global landscape has also become much more challenging in other ways. The world has become increasingly aware of the impact of climate change, and this, of course, has disproportionately affected lower middle income countries, which are least well equipped to deal with the storms, hurricanes, typhoons, etc. There's also increased insecurity worldwide, especially in the last year or so. There are conflicts such as those in Ukraine, more recently in Sudan, but also I think in about 52 other countries in the world, there is some form of civil conflict. And with these comes related financial insecurity, and this affects not just the countries concerned, but other countries as well. And all of this overall climate threatens international collaboration, which is what the Society is all about when we need it most. So the question for this panel is, in the context of the Society's new 5-year plan, how can we best confront these challenges and embrace the opportunities ahead, and what is needed to do so? So we'll try and stick to 30 minutes. We've got the panel all ready. We'll start with Dr. John Amuasi, who's representing the research network. What are the current threats, do you think, John, to innovation and building scientific capacity, both aims close to the Society's heart?
No, thank you very much for that question, and thank you for the opportunity to be on this panel. I think it's really wonderful how far the Royal Society has come, and to have the opportunity to share some thoughts on such a panel. So to go straight to the point regarding the challenges, I think these are pretty well known generally, but still very important to iterate and reiterate these, because hopefully the closer we look at these challenges and the louder we shout and the wilder we wave our hands, perhaps more attention would be given to them. I would start with the perennial problem of funding, which is ubiquitous. I mean, the money rules the world, as they say. But the funding is perhaps the major bottleneck as a threat to innovation and capacity building. And I say this because there has historically been a rather poor career pathway for scientists, especially in LMICs. Largely because of the cost involved in training, and I'm talking about high quality training. Think about now where molecular techniques are really the order of the day, next generation sequencing, artificial intelligence. All these require not only expensive equipment, but very expensive reagents and a fairly complicated system to maintain. So think about from field to lab to computer. This is a lot and requires a lot of funding, and sustainability, especially the funding for sustainability, has been a big problem. And another one also is at the institutional level. And I've always been harping on this for quite a while, just that institutional administrative support for innovation and capacity building is a huge challenge. And you'd often find many otherwise brilliant researchers spending 60 to 80% of their time on, administrative duties rather than, focusing on the research and on the mentoring. And often there may be funding to do the science, but not as much funding to hire good quality administrative and financial staff. This is a huge issue. Another one is just also at the individual level. Think about especially the South-South collaboration. It's improved significantly over the past 1.5 to 2 decades, but there's still a lot lacking. And just you don't need to think too far even about the South-to-South collaboration. Even within institutions themselves, in many sub-Saharan African countries or LMICs, you'll be surprised to find out how little is known about what is going on. I had the shock of my life just this week when we had colleagues coming from outside of Ghana to do some training on immunofluorescence assay, IFA, only to just by chance find out that somebody else in my very institution was also doing IFA. And it was a bit embarrassing for me, but also a clear reflection of how sometimes even within the institution, collaboration is lacking, and how much more even South-South. And we've seen also the powerful results that come out of constructive South-South collaboration, also because of the context, which perhaps counts for more than we have usually considered in terms of being able to transfer knowledge and apply skills. Another one is also just the attrition, people training in Europe and in North America and other places, and just having difficulty returning to their countries to contribute. And these difficulties can be well understood in terms of opportunities, remuneration, and other things. Even safety, so to speak. I'm just thinking of my colleague, senior colleague, Prof. Ahmed Musa in Sudan. I've been checking on him almost every day, and he's finding his way out of Sudan. I'm sure many of you know him. I mean, it's just sad to think of all the brains that are going to head out of Khartoum, this week, and perhaps will not be coming back ever, or maybe coming back only in a very long while to meet only God knows what. So I think I'll stop here because of time, but there are a bunch of others you can think about, language barriers, geographic location, sometimes disciplinary silos, and so on. But hopefully we can come back to these. Thank you very much, Nick.
Thanks, John. That's a very succinct list of the many challenges that face the academic community researching tropical medicine, global health. Those are the threats. What opportunities do you think we have to play with?
No, thanks, Nick. And I think these threats in themselves also reveal very unique opportunities that we have. So one may argue that the opportunities are really just a reflection of the threat. So you could just turn them around and see those opportunities right there. But just take a very slight detour. I mean, we had very important opportunities on account of COVID, which I think we took some of these opportunities, but also some were lost. We were not quick enough to grab all these opportunities. For example, we've seen how a diagnostic capacity has increased significantly across many LMICs, where now PCR is almost the order of the day. I think there's no country in the world or any LMIC that does not have PCR capacity. This would just not have been thinkable, 5 years ago. But COVID provided an opportunity to really accelerate, diagnostic capacity, data collection, including sampling capacity, and so on and so forth. I mean, that was one opportunity that the COVID pandemic presented us with. But also the challenge that I talked about with regard to funding presents the opportunity for innovative financing. Innovative financing, both of research programs, educational programs, and also sustainability programs. So I think being able to tie in the research to policies that would improve health outcomes and ultimately also just livelihoods is what is critical. How can we further show that link between the work we are doing and what that means for the future of a certain society, of a certain community, even of a certain country or geographic region. It's a huge opportunity we have to show the gaps, show how the work we do will fill that in. I think what I talked about, this lack of administrative support and financial management support, is also an opportunity to really build up skills for institutions. But it's a bit tricky because here you're competing with other organizations who would snap up the best administrators and the best financial managers and offer them packages that we can hardly compete with. But I think it's also an opportunity to reinvent the way in which we do things. Is there perhaps an administrative pathway for some scientists who may have finished just a first degree, a master's degree, but can we offer them an administrative career pathway which would, allow them to fit into a niche which perhaps would not be present outside of research or academic institutions? This could be another way of thinking outside the box. And then, finally, regarding the South-South collaboration, I think that many opportunities have been exploited, but the opportunity is also there for funding agencies, funding organizations to, further enforce, for lack of a better expression, the requirement of significant South-South collaboration in giving out funding grants and in consortia, and also to ensure that the management of some of these consortia and the funding that comes to managing these consortia is equitably distributed between the global north and the global south. And this has often been a challenge. Some funding agencies are doing much better than others, but I think it's also an opportunity really to use that as a vehicle for building research management capacity, to have the management of consortia equally balanced between the global north and south. Thank you, Nick.
Thanks, John. Those are all excellent points. I think the opportunities for South-South collaboration are particularly exciting, and something which now we're all, pretty much everyone's attached to the internet, which wasn't the case a few years ago. Maybe not everybody, but certainly most researchers have access. It's something that we should pursue more. So now, if I might turn to the social sciences, which have traditionally in tropical medicine and global health over certainly at the beginning of the discipline, been neglected, but increasingly important, particularly over COVID. Sally, how does RSTMH, through the new strategy, ensure that more social scientists feed into both research generally and also into the work of the society?
Thanks very much, Nick. And John, was great to hear your reflections. And I also want to say I'm delighted to be here and to congratulate Tamar and Simon for the launch. And I think that there's a lot that's being done already by the RSTMH that is about engaging and supporting social science. So I want to recognise some of that and then also make some additional suggestions. So Tamar, it was great to see the map, see the focus on representation and on gender that you clearly outlined there, and the real promotion and pushing forward of equity. I think that recent publications and special issues in international health have been very supportive and showcasing of social science. I was just looking on the website, and there is the Countdown special issue, which focuses on neglected tropical diseases and health system strengthening, interdisciplinary, but with social science at its heart. So a very nice example of pooling knowledge and evidence from neglected tropical diseases. And then there is the forthcoming special issue on mental health, stigma and neglected tropical diseases, all key issues, very key for equity. And it was excellent to hear equity being centre stage in the new strategy too. So looking, for example, at papers that consider the intersection of mental health, social stigma and exclusion, and how these are shaped by broader social and structural drivers. And I'm a big champion and believer in those early career research grants. And again, excellent to hear how much they've expanded. And I know social scientists that have got those for work on photo voice and disability and COVID. So Shireen Chowdhury with work in Liberia and Bangladesh. And that's really supported understandings and a focus on co-production in terms of the ways in which COVID can be an amplifier of inequity. And we see that play out in so many different contexts. So please keep those early career research grants coming. Please think clearly and carefully across the disciplines as you expand them. Tamar, you also mentioned about grants that could support and take forward gains that have been made there. And again, I think that would be really helpful. So John talked about the big issues. We also heard about the big issues in terms of climate change, fragility, mental health, infectious diseases, NTDs, how they can all interplay. And there's a lot of creative and strategic social science in those areas. And it was wonderful also to just hear everyone introduce themselves here. So we've got colleagues joining from Malaysia, India, UK, Canada, Sierra Leone, Kenya, Ethiopia, Uganda, Ghana, Egypt, Nigeria, Benin, Malawi, Cameroon, Cote d'Ivoire. They're all places where we have excellent social science happening. So I would like to see webinars, further webinars that bring social scientists together. That focus on networking and partnership, really critical. And again, was delighted to see that being center stage. And I think social scientists in tropical medicine, so I've been working as a social scientist in tropical medicine for a very long time. I came to Liverpool School in 1999. And at that point, being a social scientist in tropical medicine was a slightly lonely journey. That has changed, and I think we are building communities of social science, but career pathways and career trajectories are not necessarily so clearly demarcated, and that is something that I hear a lot from my colleagues who are excellent, strategic, impactful social scientists in different Global South institutions. So I think supporting career pathways and building networks for social science would be really great. And I love the idea of further mentorship, expert webinars, and very much also endorse John's comments on we have to look at global funding, we have to advocate for capacity strengthening at all levels, we have to support South-South and also South-North learning. And I think COVID has really shown us that. So we had work looking at social science work on health system strengthening in the COVID response in Liberia and in Merseyside. So we were learning in Merseyside from Liberia's experience, being through Ebola, pandemic response, the importance of trust and equity, bringing out those learnings in Liverpool. And also our focus on vaccine equity in Liverpool is learning from quality improvement in Kenya. So South-South, but also in the global North, we have so much to learn from the global South. And I think social science can support that. Over.
Thank you very much, Sally. What do you think are the major challenges facing the early career social scientists in LMICs? I mean, these are the future. These talented young scientists. What can we best do for them? Is there anything apart from the very valuable grant scheme?
So the grant scheme definitely is important. Opportunities for publication in very relevant topical areas. And I think that mental health and NTDs special issue is a really nice example. It's building cultures of mutual support and building networks. And I think the society is very well placed to do that. And the student ambassadors, the country ambassadors, supporting them to engage also with debates and discussions in social science. I think this focus on career pathways is an important one. Two, how we can support and enable particularly people who are sitting in the institutions where social science progression may not be the norm, and sharing ideas and resources there, I think, will be important.
Okay, thank you very much, Sally. So now we'll move on to Wendy. Wendy's on this panel representing the NGO sector, crucial importance, of course, in tackling the diseases we're interested in. What can the society do in the next 5 years, do you think, Wendy, to influence the geopolitical environment to facilitate progress and impact? This is the impact that NGOs make. Can the society help with that?
Sure. Yes, well, thank you. And just to echo all the other speakers, congratulations to Tamar and the Royal Society Board for the new strategy, and an absolute pleasure to be here. So I guess firstly, I just want to reflect a little bit on, I guess, what I from the kind of NGO sort of perspective see as one of the society's really unique strengths, which obviously is what the new strategy really is building on, and that's really its ability to have that highly credible expertise on a really wide range of very pertinent global health issues, but really be able to engage with the decision makers from a kind of neutral platform. And I think this is really important also, where there's a need for that expertise to come from multiple disciplines and sectors. And so the society's ability to really convene those diverse group of stakeholders and really to be able to contribute to those discussions with decision makers, but at really multiple levels. So you're obviously with national governments, but also I know already work's being done with the G7 and the G20. And I think that is going to be really a really crucial activity to facilitate the progress towards some of the really kind of intractable global health problems that we've been hearing about, and that we will hear about in obviously the next 5-year kind of strategy period. And I think that's actually becoming increasingly relevant at the moment, because over the last few years, and particularly kind of in the UK, I think, there's been really less opportunity for discussions with particularly civil society with governments and decision makers that isn't really being centered around resourcing. So this is where I really see the society as being able to have that engagement and have significant influence, but with less perception of that kind of vested interest. So I think we see that as a really key role for the society.
Thanks, Wendy. And on the converse, what role do you see the NGO sector playing in contributing to the society itself, to its vision and objectives? I mean, we've got a president from increasing representation from NGOs, a president from an NGO. So what other things do you think that NGOs can do?
Sure. So I think sort of around that kind of convening piece, I think NGOs can really contribute basically the sort of evidence of the impact of the programs that they obviously support, and that's important, really sort of piece of knowledge and evidence to contribute to those conversations, and also I guess also the benefit for the NGOs is really being able to just be part of those conversations that they might not have access to as individual organisations or even as kind of groups of NGOs. And I think there's also a role for NGOs in really supporting that essential shift to ensure that we do have those authentic voices of the communities that are affected by these global health threats. And really they are included and amplified in many of these conversations. And I think, the society, as you mentioned, have done a really great job already of having that really genuine engagement with NGOs. And making sure that evidence is included in those discussions, but also I think with the remit of the society's journals that really do encourage that kind of programmatic knowledge from development organisations being published. And obviously Sally's also kind of pointed to many of the special issues and those kind of areas which are really important for not only the dissemination of that knowledge, but also that converting that knowledge into the practical application in many of these areas affected by these global health threats. And I think finally, there is an opportunity for NGOs to actually increase the type of resources that are available to national ministries of health, but also researchers and technical support partners, so that there's that opportunity to kind of synergize those resources with those that the society can provide, and primarily through their sort of expanding and very successful grants program. Thank you.
Thanks, Wendy. That's a very good point to make, that a lot of people don't think that if you're working in an NGO, all the amazing and valuable experience that you obtain working in the field can't be shared through academic journals. It should be, and we certainly at Transactions, and I'm sure International Health too, welcome papers from the NGO sector, and we do have a type of article which fits that. So it doesn't have to be very academic. In fact, it's very valuable if it isn't, and it's extremely practical. Okay, thank you very much, Wendy. And now we'll move on to Adam. Adam is now RSTMH policy advisor, and I want to turn to one of the threats that's going to be with us for years, decades to come, AMR. How do you think that society can best utilize its membership to address the challenge of antimicrobial drug resistance?
Thank you, Nick, for the introduction, and I'd just like to echo all my panel members. Congratulations to the Society, to Tamar as well on the new strategy. This is a very good question, and I completely agree, obviously, that you're correct in that drug resistance is a continuing global threat, and one where the effects are not going to be felt equally, with some regions less able to manage the clinical manifestations of drug resistance due to various resource issues, healthcare infrastructural problems, but also competing infectious and non-communicable disease priorities. And I think the membership of the society is uniquely placed to contribute to the challenges posed by drug resistance. As a society's membership, much like resistance itself, is geographically broad. I checked on our website, I think we have members from over 100 countries at the moment. And the professional disciplines and sectors of the members is incredibly varied, including clinicians, pharmacists, nurses and scientists, to veterinarians and implementation specialists across all stages of career and also across all One Health sectors, which is really important. And I think this presents a real opportunity for international and intersectorial discussions about emerging common issues surrounding the management of drug resistance in different settings, something which we saw emerge at the 2021 annual meeting, which focused on drug resistance. And thinking about how the society can catalyse these discussions and bring them forward within its membership, I think it's already doing a good job. Maintaining drug resistance as a priority area of research in the strategy document is excellent, and highlighting the improved networks of members within Strategic Aim 1 of our new 5-year strategy is wonderful as well. It's so important, it can't be overstated. And I'm echoing the comments of the 3 panel members before, that these networks are fundamentally important. They can catalyse discussions across national borders, and importantly, they can position teams well for future funding applications. And this is something I've mentioned before, actually, at the annual meeting. The society might think about positioning a small number of their early career research grants towards building these networks, as in my experience, once these networks are established and they have a name, the connections between the members continue well beyond any network funding which will run out. And having these established networks of researchers apply for funding opportunities in the future tends to de-risk the formation of new groups of collaborators, which is I think, viewed quite favourably by funders. So I suppose to conclude for that, continue with the network formation, support that, and catalyse the discussions within the membership, because it presents a unique opportunity to address AMR and other disease areas.
Thanks, Adam. Yeah, networks, I completely agree with you that because networks are funded for 3 years and then they stop doesn't make them not valuable. In fact, the value can last for many years beyond.
Yeah.
So in terms of translation of the research that these networks will do into policy, can the society help with that?
Yes, I think it can. If we think about successful policy implementation, it should be, and more often than not is, dependent on evidence. So the society is uniquely positioned to focus its efforts on synthesizing multiple strands of evidence on a particular topic from its membership and from outside sources into, for example, standalone position statements, as it did for the G7 with One Health, or as reviews or policy discussion articles in one of its journals. I note, for example, that the COVID and AMR publication that myself and my co-authors published in Transactions in 2021 has now been cited more than 50 times and has appeared in multiple policy discussion documents subsequent to its publication. I think that's really important. It's great for the topic, but it's also good for the society and the journals. And these targeted approaches towards subjects such as drug resistance can have a significant effect on positioning these topics under the noses of the decision makers, whether that's at a regional, even a hospital level, also national and international levels. And then finally, I would urge contributions to be requested from those successful in winning one of the Society's small grants. And that will serve to align strategic funding that the Society makes with the publications coming out in its journals. And it kind of gives an end-to-end policy implementation strategy, all the way from funding to the publication and the recommendations from the research itself. And I think that would be quite attractive to implement. Over.
Okay, thanks very much, Adam. So there we've had a range of views on a range of topics about research, about NGOs, about social science, and about AMR as well. But of course, we're just touching on the many areas that the Society works in, and which all of us here on this webinar work with. So I'd like to open up this panel discussion to everybody else now. I don't know, are there any questions in the chat, Tamar? Please post your questions.
Sorry, there are a few questions in the chat, Nick. I just wondered if you might be able to answer the one that Adam just posed, which I found really interesting, which is, and it has come up a few times in the past, what level of influence can we bring to grant awardees to publish their findings, assuming they have findings that are publishable in our own journals? I know that there's an ethical consideration here around the independence of scientific research and scientific journals. But Nick, what's your view on that? How far could we go in trying to encourage?
Well, I think that these decisions are decisions for researchers. In order for the researchers to choose to publish in a society journal, we have to make those journals attractive. We have to continue to try to improve their quality, make them more recognized as being leading journals in the field, and there are no shortcuts really. The way we can attract the best research from our members is to be the natural place to publish such research, and for that we have to aim to publish really relevant, high quality articles, and increase. I don't really believe in things like impact factors, but make the journals more impactful in the field, and I think we can do that. And with the help of the membership, we can do that. but there's no way we have to make it attractive for them to submit. We can't force them to, quite rightly.
And I was going to mention to that point that Tom's doing some really great work on the new academy within our journals, which I'm sure you're working on, Nick, which is to try and make a space for early career researchers to get more familiar with journals, to know more about the process of publishing in a scientific journal. And that hopefully will be another way where we can try and enhance skills and expertise. And we've been looking to do that a little bit on grants as well. I mentioned it briefly, but obviously we have global assessors across the world who do those assessments every year. We would love to be able to have the opportunity for those earlier in their careers who want to learn about that kind of scientific assessment process to be able to participate in some way. So we are looking at the ways our system could support that. There are lots of questions in the chat. Some of them are more around the team and the society, which I can answer online and until there's time. But I just wondered, are there any questions from anyone of the participants for our panelists on the areas that you heard just now? That would be really helpful. And I can try and work through the more administrative ones, shall we say? There's one actually, Nick, that you could cover from someone, I think it's anonymous, who is responsible for the focus of medicinal plants and indigenous knowledge of traditional healers for modern drug preparation. I'm interested to contribute research on this area. Just to say, we are really interested around the area of traditional medicine. We have seen a small but important growth in the number of grant projects in this area, with greater need in recent years. But I'm interested, so from that perspective, all areas of our work would have an interest. But I'm interested, Nick, to hear your thoughts. Is there more research coming through the journals in that? Is it an area where we should be commissioning more papers, more commentaries?
Yeah, we do get some papers on that topic. The quality tends to be very variable. You can get really brilliant articles, you can get some which are not so good. And I think there is a risk that some reviewers will take traditional medicine not as seriously as sort of standard Western medicine. And so that's something which is quite difficult to navigate. Of course, there have been many great successes of traditional medicine, probably most famous of which is the artemisinin from Qinghaosu, the Chinese herbal medicine, which is now the standard treatment for malaria worldwide. So, yeah, there's a lot in it. Lots of anti-cancer drugs, lots of many heart drugs have come from traditional medicine. It's trying to apply the kind of evidence-based criteria to research on those plants and their extracts. That's sometimes quite difficult. I don't know whether anybody else on the panel has some thoughts on that. No.
Please. I could just sorry, please go ahead, Sally.
No, please go ahead, John, after you.
Very well.
John, you go first.
Yeah, thank you. No, I just wanted to add that many countries have recognized this need and actually have departments or desks at their ministries of health, which are looking at this, particularly not only from an intellectual property perspective, but also from a safety perspective, and being able to monitor and track what is going on and try to maintain some standards. There are also faculties of herbal medicine within schools of pharmacies in some LMIC universities. So they're located within the schools of pharmacy, so they get the full complement of a traditional pharmacy school with its research, but also the focus is on the complement of herbal or traditional medicine. There are also centers actually for plant medicine research in a couple of LMIC countries or a couple of African countries as well. I know there is a strong one in Nigeria, the same also in Ghana, and I think in Kenya as well. And I'm not too sure because I don't work in that space, but I wouldn't be surprised if they have some network, among themselves through which they work. Of course, the challenge often has been, the translation into, highly marketable product, as well as just in intellectual property protections. But these are slightly different conversations. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, John. Sally?
Yeah, thank you, John. Thank you, Nick, for those reflections. And we work on a project called Redress, which is focusing on severe stigmatizing skin diseases in Liberia. So working directly with the Ministry of Health. And in Liberia, like in so many contexts, people's health-seeking journeys are complex and deal with pluralistic healthcare providers. And traditional healers are key in that journey in Liberia. And so we've worked to build trust and build relationships with health providers and traditional healers, and also faith healers. And we've just come back from a midterm review where people at the county level sat down together and planned together. So health providers, traditional healers, faith healers, and persons affected by severe stigmatizing skin diseases. And I think that building those partnerships and nurturing trust there is really strategic from an equity perspective. So I would be very keen and supportive, like others, like this is an area that if we do want to have impact, we do need to be strategic and think creatively here. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Sally.
Nick, can I just chip in one thing?
Yes, of course, John.
Just along the same lines, because as Sally was speaking, it just triggered something else in relation to traditional medicine. And I think she hit the nail right on the head when she said that the need to be strategic, because there's always those partnerships where what you really want is a shift in the way things are done within the traditional medicine space. A good example is with snakebite. And we've done some work in this space looking at traditional medicine and snakebite, which is a bit of a tricky one because what you really want is to be able to get the traditional medicine people to refer as quickly as they can, rather than to attempt to treat, because the evidence is very clear so far that there aren't really any traditional so-called medicines that address snakebite envenoming. I need to be very specific here. So really be strategic, especially in situations where what you want is to steer people away from that kind of engagement. But you really need to do that with the full cooperation of the traditional medicine practitioners, and also being respectful of traditional beliefs, traditional stroke religious beliefs, which is a bit of a tricky space to maneuver, which I'm sure Sally can say even more, speak more to.
Sally, do you want to speak more to that?
Yeah, I mean, just to say, I agree, it is a tricky space, and our Liberian researchers and co-researchers, who include community health volunteers, people affected by severe stigmatizing skin diseases, and others, have put time and effort to navigate that tricky space and to build relationships. And I think the bottom line is all of those different sectors want to improve the impact of severe stigmatizing skin diseases on people's lives, and the impact in terms of health, livelihoods, mental health, impoverishing, inequities. And so finding a common ground, which is about promoting all of those and taking time to build trust and nurture trust. And actually, as I'm here with my social science ambassador hat on, I will say that there are different methods that we can do there. So photo voice was a way, and I've put a link in. I'm not sure if it's available for everyone, but Tamar, if you could help me if I put it in the wrong place, which shows how we use photo voice with traditional healers to learn from them about their experiences and their realities. And I think those sorts of methodological approaches can build understanding and build trust to help navigate, as John says, what is a complex and tricky space. Thanks.
Nick, just a quick comment.
Yeah,
If that's all right. Yes, I think it's really interesting, and particularly, John, to your point around snake bite envenoming, it's one of those areas where it's so important as part of the wide range. But obviously, I realise that talking about traditional medicine, traditional healing is in itself an enormous group of different practices. I have wondered whether there is something that we can do to raise more awareness, more capture more learnings around the successes and challenges through a blog series, through a special issue. But I don't see it so much coming through our channels, and I would love to have aspects of the topic working through. So perhaps for the panelists, it's something for me to email you about and get some advice on how we best do that. But maybe the first step for us in any role we might play is about raising awareness and promoting discussion, and having perhaps a session at the annual meeting, for example, talking about some of the successes and challenges. So I just wanted to mention that. There are a couple of questions in the chat, and I realize that Adam has left us. So for AMR questions or drug resistant questions, I will keep them and send them to Adam. And if you're okay to share your email with me, I will put you in contact so he can answer you directly. There is a question about from Moses about how the society can support or improve the quality of evidence from funded projects, and I think this is a really interesting one, and I don't have a short, succinct answer because it's a big issue. But I think part of our work with and obviously all of our grant awardees become members through the support of our donors or through us. It's a great chance for them to make good use of the support we offer and guidance. And this is one of the areas that we want to try and look at. So, for example, for the grant applications, which are closing tomorrow, we had some member-only webinars looking at things like, how do you go from a problem that you identified to a research question? What are the steps that you might follow? How do you decide on the methodology you may choose? How do you determine the outcomes that you may expect to achieve, and how do you disseminate those? What kind of budget do you need? So some of the really big questions at the start of research projects, we're really trying to give more time and energy to for members. And this is one of those things as well. What are your options when you're looking for evidence to support your project, whether you're generating it yourself or whether it's you're relying on other evidence and other kind of surveillance data? So that is something we want to look at. There's a question on snakebite envenoming in the chat. He was so thank you. That's anonymous, just mentioning snakebite, but actually it's about trying to have more grants. And that's a really good point, because every year we do have many people who apply for our grants program and are not able to be funded. Last year we had a good few hundred of those. We fund as many as we can, and that's based on the amount of funding we have from NIHR, from Wellcome Trust, and many other very generous donors. Our goal is to make sure that every high quality application that comes through our doors gets funded. And I can just apologise that we haven't been able to do that up to now, but I really hope we can. And Adeem and I and the rest of the team work very hard to identify partners who might want to be the donors that can support the pipeline of early career research, wherever that may be in the world, whatever disease topic that's on. So it is a work in progress. Nick, I can't see any other questions for you or for the panelists in the Q&A. So I might take the opportunity to thank you. Thank you, Nick, and thanks, Wendy, Sally, and John. We couldn't have done anything that we've done in the last 5 years without all of you and many others like you who support our work and really help influence our work, more importantly, to do the right thing. So thank you so much. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tamar. Thanks, everybody.
All right, so the next stage of today, we've got around 15 minutes left, and we'll probably finish a little bit early. What we would like to do now is just share with you that second group of the messages that have come in about what our board hope we will achieve in the next 5 years. So let's play that video and hear what they say. Thanks, Alice.
Hi, my name is Buddha Basnet, and I'm in Kathmandu, Nepal, with Oxford University unit here. I think it's very important in our strategy to keep in focus not just the pandemic, like emerging infections, but also typhoid, tuberculosis, snakebite, the age-old scourges that we have in this part of the world. And I think focusing on this is very important impact-wise.
I'm David Maybe. I'm based at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. I've been a member for 40 years. What I would like to see is the society develop more international networks. We have members in many, many countries now to continue with online meetings and also in-person meetings in Africa, Asia, and South America.
I intend the new strategy to help us achieve improved membership drive and also networking among our members through well-planned regional activities.
My name is Tim Hazel. I'm the Treasurer of the Royal Society for Tropical Medicine and Hygiene, and I want to see this new strategy supported by a set of strong financial principles with a set of budgets that are aligned to our ambitions. This way we can ensure that we continue to expand our membership and develop the potential of members across the global community.
Wonderful. Thank you, Alice. And these are just some of the messages that we've had, and of course we take them all on board and put them into our plans. And I should have said for John, Sally, Wendy and Adam and Nick, I did make lots of notes during your talks, and I am going to be emailing you about some of those areas to pick up. So how we can think about more enhanced collaboration, for example, thinking about how we can bring social science colleagues even more into the network and their voices into our conversations, and there's also the convening role that we might be able to play between civil society and government, and thinking about developing more networks and more useful networks that will lead to or strengthen existing collaboration. So I will be in touch about those. So that reaches almost the end of today. We're a little bit ahead of time. I wanted to say a huge thank you. I know we had to turn the chat off because there were so many people we needed to move to the Q&A side. But while that was on and seeing so many participants, it's so wonderful to see people that I know and recognise and I'm so fond of. So I just wanted to say an enormous thank you to all of you for joining, for giving up what I know is going to be a very busy time, and for some of you a very unsociable hour of the day to be here and to hear about what we're doing. I hope that we've inspired you with a little bit of everything that we'll be working on, and we'll continue to deliver the strategy from a month ago all the way through for the next 5 years. If you want to be more engaged with the society, the easiest thing to do, and the thing that I would encourage everyone to do, is to sign up to the newsletter. That is really easy, and it's a way of hearing about almost everything we do. Of course, the best way to know about everything we do is to become a member. And if you're not already a member, please do so. There is lots of support available to our members and fellows. And also, as a member and fellow, you get to influence what we do to shape our journey, either on our board, as an advisor, or through the many times that we ask members for help and guidance at times when we're not sure which direction to go in. There are also ways, if you wanted to be involved as a volunteer, there are lots of roles. I've mentioned some of them today. You could be involved in our quality control as one of our assessors. That's quality control for our grants and our meetings, involved in the journals and quality control the articles that we publish. If you would like to discuss any ideas that you have, please email me. I'll make sure that my email address is in the chat, and it's on the website, and I'm sure I've emailed you at some point. If you have an organisation that you're connected with or work with, and you feel that a formal partnership would be of benefit to them, to us, then please do email me and let me know. I'm really happy now that we've started to develop MOUs with some amazing institutions in India to roll that out across the world. That's something we would really want to do globally. The last thank you of today has to go to the volunteers that help us. We're a team of 8. We have 1,000 volunteers, and I'm counting all of you giving up your time today, and our speakers. We couldn't do what we do without you, and thank you to all of them for everything they do. And particularly to our donors, I have to single out NIHR and their support in the last 5 years of our grants programme. Their help has meant that over 500 people have been able to start their research journey. And in that 500, I have no doubt we have some of the leaders and the innovators of the future. So thank you so much to Val and the team at NIHR for that. And that's all from us. Please keep following us, and you'll hear more about the new strategy as we deliver more elements of it. Thank you so much today, and have a wonderful rest of week and weekend. Thank you. See you.